gained from that data is used to manage assets, resources, and services efficiently to improve operations across the city. And it's a continuous effort to improve the level of services, the quality, and including management of resources, including the well-being of citizens in various aspects. So here's a picture that just shows how smart city collect data, how data is communicated for various aspects to improve quality of life and quality of service to citizens, and also to improve efficiency and environment, less pollution, less usage of energy whenever possible, less time to wait for service, promises to various services in the city. That is considered smart. A smart city varies from city to city based on need, based on priorities, based also on budget, and will of the people, and will of politicians or the government in charge. So these are different aspects pictorially. Each one could be discussed separately, but I'll just move on. So the common thread between all smart cities around the world is data collection points. So part of how to collect data could be human eyes. So it could be an app for that city that a person reports something, saying that they've seen a pot or a hole in the road, or a light is not working, and they just send it. And the city needs to do something about it. There's somebody in charge. If the information gathered is not used to make decision, then it's not useful, and the society loses trust in such applications and such communication channel. So it's important that when data is collected, that is processed and dealt with in a timely manner, as close to prompt as possible. And so it could be various observations, suggestions, and complaints, or I know many times when in customer reviews, people focus on negative things and complaints, but also it's important to focus on positive things that the citizen liked, and the city could or people in the authority or can change it or improve it in some aspects, again, to improve the objectives, which are quality of life and quality of environment, and preservation of resources, including using less energy, spending less in the sense to get maximum thing. So more efficiency. So it could be human eyes, the traditional way, integrated into smartness. So human eyes, but integrated in apps, in smartphones or other IoT devices. So it could be sensors that they just report to a central station. For example, temperature, air quality. So if the air quality goes below certain threshold, then the city has to do something about it. Like in China, I've been to cities where you can't drive your car every day. Like if even cars drive on certain days, and odd cars drive on certain days. So these are part of solutions to improve air quality. For example, if the city feels that air quality was reduced, of course, this is kind of temporary solutions. A long-term solution will be how to have smart cars, how to have cars that produce less pollution, or public transportation that produce less pollution. For example, in Rabat, a lot of the bus services were replaced by a tramway, so that improved air quality in Rabat. Similar tramway was done in Casablanca, but I don't see. Probably it improved a little bit, but still there are issues with air quality in Casablanca because the dynamic, the company, the manufacturing, and other things don't exist in Rabat, but exist in Casablanca. So, like parking spots, sensors can tell where parking spots are filled or not, or even if somebody overstayed the period that they need to stay there, so they could get a ticket without the intervention of a cop or anything, and just through SMS to the owner of the vehicle, being told. Again, it depends on what policy the authorities need to see. Do they increase the fine? Do they just give warning at the beginning, and the second time give a fine, small fine, and then it grows later? And how do you enforce it? How do you enforce that the owner of the vehicle pays that fine? So you have to communicate with the registration service, so the car cannot be registered, or at some point maybe the car is towed until the person pays a certain fine to reach a certain threshold. Street traffic lights in several cities, do you have sensors on the ground? So if no vehicle is stopped at the traffic light, there's no need for that traffic light to be green, and that makes it easier so less cars stop at the traffic light. Lights, when do they turn on? When they turn off? Maybe they turn on only when somebody's walking. So there's a sensor, so that preserves energy. Of course, the light itself is a LED. It's to save energy, or and other aspects. All these are feeding the smartness of the city, and improve the living condition and modernize living condition of the society and citizens. For cameras, this is seen a lot in China, like in Shanghai and other big cities there. So face recognition, like you can track somebody, track car tags for violations, for various reasons. So you have less people on the ground to enforce the law, and eventually the population becomes self-discipline. So they do their best not to violate the law of the city, traffic laws or other laws, because so here is an image from China. Too many cameras in at first when you go there, when you see it, it gets annoying, and like you feel like it's an invasion of privacy, or but after a few days you get used to it. So why does data matter? Data recorded facts and figures. So we collect it, we store it, we manage it, we retrieve it when we need it, we analyze the data. Analysis could be used through artificial intelligence or through the intervention of human brain, of trained individuals. Of course, as Dr. Saidi said, when things are tedious, then AI becomes very useful. But also AI becomes smarter and smarter through the analysis of data. So the more data it's fed and the solution we want, it learns better and becomes better. Our humans don't do well with these jobs, but also don't do well with big data. So with small numbers, we can calculate by hand or in our brain, but then when it becomes a huge number, then we need computers. Similar thing with the intervention of AI. And then information is knowledge derived from data. And then information affects decision making. So the knowledge. So if the data is not there, we get information to make decisions, like to improve the quality of service, the quality of living conditions of the citizens. So information system, collection of hardware, software, data. So smart cities can influence culture and change people's behavior, like driving speed, driving style, parking. If they know that they're gonna get a ticket without anyone's intervention, and then they would be conscious not to break the law and not to park where they're not supposed to park, or not to speed, or not to respectful traffic laws. Crossing streets in some cities like Singapore and China, if a citizen doesn't cross at the crosswalk, or they just throw trash, or they spit on the ground, even on the sidewalk, even on public space, then they get a ticket. That face recognition cameras can identify the person, and that can affect them through their WeChat account. So there is a whole mechanism and system to use AI to make the society more disciplined, behave better, and self-conscious when it comes to these aspects. So you don't have
Professor
to have...
Kettani.
Yes.
A couple of, listening to this, I mean, it's really scary. What I do, so many jobs will be lost. That brings. I would like to bring Professor Saeedi's, let's say, talk that artificial intelligence will help creating tons of jobs. How would that be in the context of smart cities, smart grid, and also how the students, let's say, who is just starting his university studies or about completing his university studies, how would they think, and how would they, what kind of not advice, but orientation would we give them, how to use artificial intelligence to promote themselves and to self-achieve themselves? Please.
Yeah, I think AI is a tool. It could be used for the objectives of any particular owner or user. So if there's a police state to police its population, so from a particular citizen's point of view, it may not be a good thing, but from administrative or from the point of view, it's an important and useful tool. As far as jobs, before the internet, a lot of jobs now that exist because of the internet, including our education right now, was not possible before. So new job market to develop the software that we are using. Temkine uses these virtual spaces, virtual communication, like 20 years ago by movies. So, or only accessible to very, very, very elite people in intelligence and in defense or army for particular countries. So new jobs going to be created, as Dr. Saeedi said, and highly paid jobs. So these are skilled jobs that pay more, and the tedious, repetitive things we leave it for AI, and those typical jobs, they don't pay much. So the future is bright when it comes to this. It's not as scary as but those who don't change or resist change or refuse to change, of course, they're gonna miss a lot on these opportunities.
Well, how does that work in the context of a smart city?
A lot of opportunities, like when we say about apps, somebody going to develop the app, somebody going to maintain the app, somebody going to collect data that comes from the app, somebody going to transmit information, going to collect data, going to either going to use machine learning or AI itself to do for them as we have this in the topic. So you have more network that are that that can help on to make a better quality of service, a better quality of living for the citizens.
You are a professor of artificial intelligence at Al-Akhawayn University. At your university as a leader of the, let's say, semi-private universities. It was a start. It's where it's located. Is there a trend? Is there something of a change in your approach to training, to providing, let's say, education? Is that something that's ongoing at the university, or are you still business as usual?
Definitely not business as usual. Students know more about technology than faculty. Just fact of life, because younger generation is like that, and so they are using the technology, and we are in technology in what we do. We are using internet, and now if I realize there is also the issue of ChatGPT, so get integrated in higher education. But also these topics do not influence only computer science students and artificial intelligence students and even engineering. It influences students in humanities and business. So all students now or use artificial intelligence, not necessarily as programmers or designers, but also as users and customers. So all students in our university, all of them have a digital platform for education, for online education. All of them have access to computers. All of them, and again, so these things augment it's augmenting using AI, will be using Internet of Things, would be using computers. Even in any discipline, even disciplines that we thought that have nothing to do with computers.
You mean the university is changing its curricula all over, or is it something that's happening because of the pressure that students? You said that students do use that, and is there an adjustment and something that's ongoing with the university? Let's say if we receive a lot of questions at the Temkine Foundation, and we are keen on providing answers. I mean, as much as we can, as much as informed as we are.
The pedagogy changes, so you may have similar syllabus, but similar content to deliver. But the way how you deliver it, the way how you test students, the way how you discuss issues with them changes than 20 years ago.
Okay. Anybody wants to interject? Professor Goffi, Professor Hashimi.
I can definitely.
Go ahead, please. Yes, sure.
Okay, great. No, that's a really interesting point, and I'm myself also teaching today. I'm teaching full day, and there is something that is really interesting, is that for learners, and especially when they're trying to think about what will be their career plans, it's really important for teachers and education leaders to help learners to understand how they interact with technology. And that's, I think, the big problem, and we all know, because Professor Kettani was talking about ChatGPT. That's something that is really interesting. You can fear it, obviously, because it might have really harmful consequences, but at the same time, you can also use it for good purposes, right? If you know how to interact with it, and if you really understand what's the relation that you have to technology, and what are the limitations of this kind of technology, which is something that we now have to learn in terms of teaching. Obviously, I would say in good old times, it was just easy just to present yourself in front of the audience, and you were just providing with any kind of information which you can present also as kind of a truth, and people would just take it for granted and reuse it, right? But now you have to adjust your teaching philosophy to the fact that those people that you are in front of you are, while you're talking, they're checking, right? Or they're doing something else in the worst case scenario, but most of them, they're checking. So they're able even to question what you're saying, meaning that you're no longer here just to provide them with information. You're playing the role of a, let's say, music director, right? And you're just here to orient them and to provide them with some kind of tips and ideas. So I think that the teaching now is much more about helping learners to get transferable skills than really knowledge-based skills. So it's all about, okay, information is everywhere, data is everywhere. How can you access it? How can you use it relevantly? And that's where actually our job as professors, our teachers, has changed along the way. Now we also have to talk about the process of learning. What does that mean to learn? What's the purpose of learning, right? Is it just me providing you with my knowledge and you buying it, taking it for granted? Or is it much more about the process? What are the tools that we can use to learn? How can we use them for a very, very specific purpose? And what are the limitations of it? So this is where I can see from my humble and really limited perspective a big change. And when we're talking with students, especially for exams, it's all about explaining them, okay, you can obviously go ChatGPT and ask the question, and then ChatGPT will provide you with a full essay. Then you just have to copy paste it, and then you will be marked on that, right? But what you're losing is the fact that along the way you haven't learned how to make inferences, how to look for sources, how to use them, right? And that's all those soft skills that you're losing. And the point and the big problem that we have with those soft skills is that they will be important in the future. We know that most of the jobs that will be created, 80% of the job that will be created related to AI do not yet exist. Right. So at some point, we know that those kids that are, or the learners that are in doing their studies for now, they will change their orientation to make it possible to change from one job to another, are soft skills. So if you do not learn them from the very beginning, if you do not understand that writing an essay, it's not only about, then you lose job will disappear because it's no longer relevant, or maybe because technology has evolved or whatever, and then you have to make a choice to move to another kind of job. If you do not have those soft skills, you will not be able to adjust rapidly. And that's the big issue. And this is where, once again, we are changing the way we are teaching, just to make learners aware of the fact that obviously it's easy to go through chat Wikipedia and doing copy paste from Wikipedia, right? So ChatGPT is kind of a new way to do this kind of things, but it's mostly about, okay, look at what you are losing if you do not learn how to use those tools.
Professor Kettani?
Yes, sir. Do I continue?
I mean, Professor Goffi just brought up the let's say the question of soft skills, and there is one question that comes to mind. Where are we going? Are we going to a different type of university, different type of training institutions, more of in a more of a virtual setting than in a physical one? And then should we be telling our let's say our students, our future laureates, okay, you got pay a lot of attention to soft skills, getting reinforcing them. You got to, and forget about going to school, forget about going to amphitheaters, going to those all what we used to go to, you, me, Professor Goffi, and all those who are. Is that something we we should, or we would be willing to tell our students? I mean, we're spending a lot of money. Should we tell governments to stop investing in buildings and invest in something else? Is that something that you would want to say and eventually recommend?
Well, universities now are very different than universities that I attended before, like 30 years ago. So we have like modern campuses now are Wi-Fi connected, and you have monitoring cameras, and learning management systems are integrated in education. Depends on what university we are talking about. You have Blackboard, you have Canvas, you have Desire to Learn or D2Learn, you have Moodles, you have Temkine platform for some universities are using now. So there is capability of synchronous and asynchronous teaching capabilities using these learning management systems, where you can record a lecture or even give a synchronous, means real-time lecture, but have it recorded for those who couldn't attend it, or for those who want to review it later. With these learning management system, you have opportunity of automatic grading. And for automatic grading, questions need to be like true or false, multiple choice, and so it doesn't have much of your intervention. But still, you can intervene to correct something if the student misspelled the answer, and the system took it as wrong. Student can complain, and then you can double check it and mark it right for the students. And then you have automatic cheating detection, like for Blackboard or Canvas, it's called Safe Assign, or even Design to Learn. So this automatic cheating detection, it checks the internet for similar wording for assign, especially for essays. Of course, with ChatGPT, it beats this kind of feature, and still researchers are working on finding ways to say that the student did use ChatGPT if you are not allowing them to use it. But still, that's a research topic. So there are threat landscape, technological innovation of cyber systems, and increased dependence of individual societies and nations on them has brought new, real, and ever-changing threat landscape. So when we make it easy on our ease and efficiency to our lives, has been met by similar innovation to take advantage of cyber systems for other gains. So when you have a smart city, when you digitalize data, you make it easier for hackers to access the data, to manipulate it, to change it, to make it not available. And threats evolving faster than they can be assessed. Some threat actors are government sponsored, so they are very well trained and hard to detect and hard to go after.
I think Professor Goffi wanted to say something. Professor Kettani, Professor Goffi.
Oh, yes. So sorry to interrupt. I was just because I'm really interested in what Professor Kettani was just saying about these modern campuses. And for those of us who applied, for example, for a university position, we know that, for example, we are asked quite often to provide with our teaching philosophy. Right? How do you teach? What is the philosophy behind your teaching, right? And I would just make sure that everyone understands that technology is not the final end. Technology is not the philosophy. Technology is a tool that you can use based on a specific philosophy, right? So it's not because you have modern technologies or modern university or modern campuses that the teaching will be adjusted or adapted or relevant to the needs of the learners and to the markets, obviously. And because you asked that, my dear friend Professor Kadili, this is really important to understand that I think that we're missing the point with the current way we are teaching, because we are not just to the evolving situation and this kind of use of we are still teaching in an old way with new means. And this is where you have a big gap that at some point we really have to bridge. So it's one thing to have really great technological campuses, but if you are not a good teacher, if you do not have the right philosophy, if you don't know how to use those technologies, And if you don't know how to bridge the gap between the fact that technology it's not an end in itself and the fact that learners need to learn things, then all the technology that you have is pointless. So beyond even the technology, we had this discussion, Professor Kadili, together when I was in Morocco quite early in this year. There is something new that we have to think about, right? There is something new that goes beyond the current university system. We need to think about a new model of universities, if we call that universities, or a new model of teaching that is based on the use of technology, right? But in which technology it's not at the center. It must remain what it is, a tool for a specific purpose, and the purpose it's up to us, and I know that Professor Kettani and all professors are doing that. We are just trying to understand how can we share our knowledge in a relevant and useful way for learners, right? So technology is just a tool.
Well, yes, technology is just a tool. It's just a kind of it's just a tool, but unfortunately, it's taking a lot of things, taking a lot of attention. It's taking a lot of money. A lot of people are pouring a lot of money into it. So to develop more and more artificial intelligences. In March only, in last March, I mean, there were 1,000 applications that were developed. I mean, if I look into April, that would be more than that. And the speed is so fast, and we are being exposed to that. Professor Kettani said that you ask a question, the professor asks a question, and the student already has is on their computer or their laptop, fire Google or some intelligence to answer the questions. How do we deal with that? How do we tell the thousands and thousands of students we're dealing with, you as professors, not anymore me, Professor Kettani, and so many of our colleagues, how do we deal with that? Bearing in mind that it brings conflicts into the institution between those who do have access to technology and those who do have limited or let's say no access to technology. How do we deal with that? This is the first question. Second question, we see that in universities are being deserted. Nobody, I mean, less and less people go to, let's say, universities. They stay home, they connect from home. How do we deal with that and yet provide training, provide what our future laureates need to enter the let's say the job market with what they need for that? How do we do that? You are teaching, Professor Goffi, you are traveling from one country to another, you're providing people where it's being wrong. I mean, when you I should say about 45 years ago, the computer I ran research was as big as my office now. Today, that computer, I mean, 10 of that computer would fit my phone. So what do we do? I mean, it's so fast, and we have people learning as fast as that. I mean, I can see around me here at the foundation, my colleagues are really quick at picking up. So how do we deal with that?
Well, the reason we have universities not only to educate people, and train them, but also to build the credibility. So some universities are trusted more than others. So if we come up with a new paradigm of education, it will support by entity or company, say Google or Apple starts its own kind of a new education, or a government. So and then when you give them a diploma or certificate, how much is it worth? Now you have many universities, especially when universities that started being paid, like students pay to get their education, historically the students were viewed as a product of blurred that thing that it became, some universities think of students as customers. And with that came grade inflation and later degree inflation. So you have a diploma that certifies that this person has a PhD in computer science, but do they really, or even a bachelor, they don't know as much as coming from the knowledge the person think they know, they don't know about it. It's not a result. So that training, that suffering, that, so it's like training. If you want to run a mile, it's not enough to watch a movie about running a mile. It's not enough to read a book about running a mile and feel like you run a mile. You have to run it over and over to practice it for your body to train for it. So in the case of new technology, you may find students see for the near future, the victim is search engines. Because with search engines, it gives you a list of links, but with ChatGPT, it gives you the information itself. So you don't really care about the links. So that's a big challenge to Google model. So that's why Google is working hard to find its own like a search engine that is ChatGPT kind of thing. I don't know if they are part of OpenAI or not, but if their search engine is affected with ChatGPT, then they have to come up with Google GPT or something like that. Always a challenge of finding a new paradigm. Like online education existed before COVID, but people did not take it seriously. After COVID, people take online education seriously. So when you tell somebody, well, I'll be out of town and I'm giving my lecture online, you don't get many pushback from higher administration like before COVID. Before COVID, they did not really trust that much. They want you to be present and not miss class or repeat the class physically. So there are many challenges that come with new technologies, including the training, including the main issue of a university is that you wanna be truthful in certifying that a student knows what they are saying they know. So it's like having an advanced calculator in a class of calculus. If the student have to do the calculus by hand in introductory calculus class. Later, when they become expert, yes, calculator would help them, programming would help them, but I wouldn't let that calculator used in homework or test for the calculus. And so the same thing with ChatGPT, it could be used for experts. It could be used for people who know how to use it, but they already know how to research, how to sift through true information and false information, because there's a lot of fake information out there, and manipulative people that manipulate information. So including data and all that stuff.
Yeah, if I may just back to your first question, it's very interesting, and I totally align with what Professor Kettani was saying. I even think that the problem is that most people do think that ChatGPT is providing information while it's providing data. It's not providing information. Then you have to take those data from ChatGPT, data from the professors, data from all sources when you collect data yourself, and then you have to organize them in order to make them information that are relevant to you, right? If you just take that for information, it means that you no longer have this kind of critical thinking, right? You just buy things that you've been provided with, and then you keep repeating what you've told. I had this experience just this morning. The class we are giving today at the EM Lyon in Paris is about responsible AI, right? And we were talking about the codes of AI ethics and the big issue about how to establish those codes of ethics. And then we split the class in 2 groups, and we asked them to provide us, and think about it's an international class, and we asked them to provide us with 5 principles that they feel are relevant to build a global code of ethics, right? And some of them obviously went directly to ChatGPT, right? And this is where that's really interesting, where the philosophy is interesting, right? If you just accept that, then they will provide you with 5 basic principles. But what we showed them is that those principles, they are mere repetition of what is existing. Because what ChatGPT is doing is just collecting information from the existing world, right? So you're killing innovation. And we know that the current global governance system does not work. So if you just take that for granted, that, okay, those principles, accountability, respect for human rights, transparency, human supervision, these kind of things are real just because ChatGPT is saying it, then you're missing the point, right? And then you're actually reaching the limitation of the exercise. And that's where we are, and say, okay, let's start with ChatGPT. But what does ChatGPT tells you? It's just telling you things that you've heard, nothing new, right? And it doesn't work. So now you have to use your brain to go beyond ChatGPT, right? And to make inferences from things that you've learned here and there. And this is where you have to teach how to take some distance from technology. Technology is not the final goal. Technology is not, definitely not, right? Your brain, training your brain, as Professor Kettani was saying about people that are practicing sport, it's all about how you practice, how you teach your brain how to make inferences, get information, put label on them, store them, and wait until the moment that you need to, collect all those data and say, okay, I've learned, I remember that I've learned in this class marketing this, and I've learned about artificial intelligence, this kind of thing, and I've learned from experience in my job this, and then you make connection with all those things, and then you can adjust to something new. And these are soft skills. These are transferable skills. And you cannot learn them by just watching movies or videos or this kind of thing. You have to practice. You have to train your brain. The big problem is because we are, I think, too often focusing on the learners. It's also that it requests strong efforts from teachers, right? Because it's not an easy thing to do, because you have to adjust to each class. And even when you're giving the same class from one year to the other, then you will have to adjust because the technology would have changed, because the mentality would have changed. So it means that you cannot do the way it was before with all professors that were just repeating year after year the same text with the same slides, with the same documents. You have to update your own knowledge as a professor, and you have to update your philosophy. And it requests strong efforts. And I know for sure from experience that lots of people that are teaching are not ready for that. Because actually you have to leave your comfort zone. Right? You have to question yourself. You have to question your methods. You have also to listen to others to know what they expect from you, and not to be kind of a proselyte people that are just saying, okay, the old way to teach is the good one, so I will keep going this way. That doesn't work. Then you have to question yourself. You have to update yourself. You have to work all the time, right? And I feel like there is a strong need for professors to understand that too. You have to adjust to the need of the students, but you also have to adjust to the need of the society in which students will be sent at some point. Because what's the goal of education is to provide learners with the basic information to be good citizens and to, let's say, meet the market expectations. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We are making citizens and we are making professionals. So you cannot just teach outside of the needs and the demands from the market and from the country or the culture you live in, right? So it's continuous adjustment, and I'm sure that Professor Kettani is experiencing the same thing. It's really intellectually demanding for professors. So if you it is, and if you're lazy, obviously you would say, okay, no, I already have my slides. I will repeat it time and again. But at some point, even with technologies, with new technologies, after 1 year, your previous slides are no longer, relevant. They're obsolete. They're totally obsolete. So that's where also you have to try to find a way to make the knowledge or knowledge providers and knowledge consumers, you have to find a way to make them meet, right, for the benefit of both of them.
Emmanuel, let me submit this, if I may. At the actual stage where we are, and you were mentioning, you're touching base on ChatGPT, I would submit that it is at its very beginning, and a year from now, a few months from now, it will be much more developed. And I have a couple of situations which I would like to share with you. One is this Colombian judge who ruled in a very sensitive case using ChatGPT. And he did not just use what ChatGPT gave him back. No, he went in and he made sure that what ChatGPT gave him back was right. I mean, he checked the cases. He did. You know that Colombia is on common law. So he checked the cases. He checked totally written by ChatGPT. This is one. Second, I guess that a few months from now, for a few weeks from now, and I did test that. You could tell the chat or Bard or any other intelligence similar to that, go to the Library of Congress, look for whatever you find on, let's say, on the so-and-so. Summarize that for me and bring it back. And you would get that. I mean, it's the way you use it that we are here to talk about, not whether it will. I don't know. It's the way we use it. So we shouldn't we be telling our future laureate how to approach? And I'm getting to the question you asked me this morning. Shouldn't we be telling our future laureate how to approach artificial intelligence, how to use it, what kind of precaution they should be making sure to take before getting into it and saying, okay, this is the panacea of anything I'll be working on. It's gonna solve all my problems, or on the other hand, it's gonna destroy me. There's nothing I can do about it. So where do we stand, and how do we do that, please?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I guess it's a tricky question, and anyone who would provide you with a one-fit-all solution would be a liar. So we really have to adjust that to a very specific situation. No, but you're right. But back to what Professor Kettani was saying, this is where it's really important to train your critical thinking first, because once you use ChatGPT, then you are able to maybe spot inconsistencies, right? If you don't do that, you believe it, you buy it, right? You take it for granted, right? This is where you first have to train your brain about lots of things, right? And then you read ChatGPT and say, oh, there is something weird here, right? And then because you find something weird, then you will question the result. And then you will do your job as a human being, right? So if you're not trained to that, then you will not have the necessary, ability to step back from the result. And I think that for people that are well-trained lawyers and judges that have been working in this field for years without technology, they are trained to do that because they have a wide knowledge, and they're able to see when something is wrong about what technology is providing them with. So once again, it's where you either have the choice of freedom, which is, okay, I can step back and I can look at the solution that is provided to me and I can question it, or you are in the dark side of what we call conformism, right? And you accept to be a slave of technology and of the people that are behind the technology. So it's up to you, right? It's an ethical stance that you have to take, that you have to be aware of. But my point is, you cannot complain if at some point you are led to do things that you are against just because you've learned them by heart and because you've repeated things that have been provided by technological tools that are biased, by the way, right? So meaning that I totally agree with Professor Kettani's idea of people that are practicing sport. First, practice. First, learn what it is to run. First, first. Start that, right? And then try to understand how you can improve through maybe technology or through learning about physiology, about muscles, about physics, about lots of things that are actually involved in the process of running, right? And then you can add, but first, practice, and then learn from practice what you need. And second, which is really important, is that if you are able to do that from the very beginning, then you will be able also to set what are your goals, what are the goals that are relevant to you, and not the goals that have been provided to you as relevant, right? Which is called paternalism, right? I go to my son and I tell him, okay, I know what you need. But that's not what we want, because that's not freedom. So once again, it's a philosophical sense. Either you're looking for freedom and then you have to learn how to be critical, or you feel like, okay, I don't need freedom, I'm just a conformist, and then you obviously run the risk to become a slave, right? So this is a tricky question, and I really think that that learning to make inferences and learning about your field by yourself is really, really important before even entering into the technological process.
Professor Kettani?
Well, it's like watching a TV, broadcasting TV that has a specific agenda. You wouldn't know the whole truth if you didn't dig in, if you don't have the skill of listening to another TV channel, to read articles from somewhere else. You will just believe what you watch on TV. And of course, that creates problems. In the US, if you have CNN is pro-Democrat, Fox News is pro-Republican. If you watch one, you are watching a different world. And then when you are trying to have a conversation with other person who's a customer for CNN, somebody who's customer for CNN and another who's customer for Fox News, they cannot talk with each other. For them, like, this person is stupid, is idiot, doesn't know the facts, because the facts are different. And the same thing about ChatGPT. Like, the person who controls ChatGPT will control how people think. And that's a huge danger, not only to the society, but also to the government structure itself. For example, if somebody would search something, if ChatGPT owners want to destabilize Morocco, then somebody, when they write anything about Morocco, they're going to tell them some BS that affect the stability of the government. So, and blocking it is not the solution. And trying to counter it with news and all that stuff also not so. I can't force it. It's a new thing. Just came out in November, but the intelligence had it for more than 10 years. They were working on it before. So, but I can foresee a challenge to government stabilities, like Facebook had a challenge to many governments in 2010, 2011, and even 2016 in the U.S. election. It was used to influence the U.S. election. So how ChatGPT is novel, is new. I'm sure they're going to be different ChatGPTs. Different companies going to work on their own ChatGPT. I think there are already some, like 7 different ones. Of course, ChatGPT is the most famous. But it would be interesting to have all these versions talk to each other, and you see them fighting with each other and having conversation with each other, and that's how we're going to learn, through watching them fighting with each other. And so you're not just controlled by one designer. You are learning and based on the person's convictions and taste, they're gonna follow. They're gonna make their own image, but knowing all kind of data that exists. Because what happens, the danger that you see with a lot of these government-sponsored, whether Western or other governments, including DW, including France 24, including CNN, Fox, like RT, Russia TV, like if you don't, like, it suppress some data you don't even see it. So you don't know that it exists. And if you know it exists, at least you have some understanding. But because the broadcaster want to force you into a certain conclusion, they don't show you the data. They cherry pick data and connect it and give you a so-called documentary for you to believe their narration. And that could happen with ChatGPT.
Well, I think if I may, I mean, years ago I was visiting with my daughter in Virginia, United States, and she years ago, and she introduced me to Alexa. And ChatGPT could become like Alexa. I mean, CNN featured this program. Go ahead, check it out, and let me know what other things are out there contradicting or supporting or just challenging what CNN has done. And this is the thing we shouldn't we be telling our people, telling our youngsters, this is the way to use it. This is, I mean, you said there are already 7 out there, and there are so many out there. And we're talking about something that's of none of our doing. So we are consumers. How do we encourage our people, our youngsters, to become more than simple consumers, to become quote unquote producers? You're the experts. I'm too old to be an expert. I'm just trying to contribute to this dynamic. How do we do that? Any suggestion before we turn the floor to Professor Goffi, who is going to talk to us about ethics and artificial intelligence?
Well, first, like, students need to be aware of these things. Like, there was in Russia, like, a student used ChatGPT to write their master thesis, and so and faculty did not know about it because they didn't know what ChatGPT was. The administration didn't know until it made it to the news. And if the news article here, I didn't go through all my slides, but this is a student. So he posted this, he was happy that he posted about it. And that's another problem that you see with Gen Z, that they do things without even thinking about consequences. So he used ChatGPT and he bragged about it. The same thing about this 21-year-old person who was working in the Pentagon that leaked all these classified documents and bragged about it in video game because somebody insulted him that he doesn't know, and he showed him how much he knows. So this is I was going to talk more about it in my slides, but like Gen Z, we are dealing with a different generation. Look at the leadership of universities. Look at the leadership of countries. Look at the leadership of the United States, for God's sake. Like the gap between Biden, who is like 80 years old, and the population that is 20 years old is like 3 generations. So these are 2 different worlds talking to each other. But the problem is that the older mentality making the policies. And the youngsters, they feel alienated, so they do what they enjoy. They think of the whole life, they think of it as a game. You see that also in higher education. Professors, many professors are much older, and administrators, the higher management, is even older. So how are they going to make rules for younger generation, for Generation Z or millennials, if they don't integrate their opinion, if they don't learn more about them? If even when they get the opinion, they think, no, you don't know, you have to learn more from us. But they know more about technology than their professors. And many times in classroom, they are bored. They are bored of the structure, and that's why they don't innovate. That's why they don't participate. That's why they are spaced out. That's why they may not come to class, because they are bored of the whole structure of university. The fact of discipline, of sitting for 1 hour and listening to somebody who is older, who you think that I can just watch YouTube about this topic and get more information, like it's torturing to this kind of population. And so yes, you are right, Dr. Kadili. We have to reevaluate the higher education paradigm, and how are we in lieu of ChatGPT, YouTube, and other aspects. Is it going to be fully online universities? I don't know, because the new generation, there's a discipline kind of like, it only works for a person who really want to learn something. When they want to learn something, they learn it. But that thing is not structured in the sense of a course. They can learn a particular topic. They can learn how to fix my iPhone, how to fix something, but they cannot learn the whole thing about AI. They can see something exciting about AI, but they cannot. The idea of a professor is like a coach. Even some classrooms, I don't teach. Students, I just create the environment for learning. Students present, they discuss things with each other, they learn, they use outside resources. So that's an environment. So, but you are controlling the paradigm, like you, Dr. Kadili, now controlling the whole setting of this conference, leading the direction of the discussion. So that's what professor does. Of course, from an administrative point of view, they may not see that's the role of a professor. They want the professor to be there in the classroom talking for 100 minutes, and because they are much older generation. For student, it's amazing how the students, when you give them the whole class time, how they're so happy, how the reviews for the course is much higher than when the professor is talking all the time, when you are telling them what to do. How the discussion, when they discuss things with each other, they learn more. They're excited about the topic. So these are changes in paradigm, in teaching paradigm that, of course, it doesn't have to be all present. They could be a big screen, people joining in from all over the world for a particular university that its management is based in a country, but it's worldwide. So these are all could be thought. But with the absence of authority that sponsors this with money and with reputation, it becomes just a philosophical discussion.
Professor Goffi?
Yeah, there's so much to say about that. I totally agree with the fact that we are a coach. Actually, we're just coaches. I like this idea of being an orchestra director, right? You have your brain and you know how to master your brain. I'm just here to help you to master it even better and to master it with people, right? How to interact with others, right? I'm not here to tell you how to use your brain because you already know that, right? You just have to discover by yourself. So it's something that is really interesting. But there is a whole philosophy that we have to think about, and I do agree with the fact that there gap between the ages of the people that are in charge and the people that are learning. That's totally true. The age itself is not a problem in terms of just numbers. It's a problem of the fact you can be someone that is old but that is aware of the fact that there's this gap. Then you will be able also to bridge the gap, right? If you're willing to do so, if you're ready to make efforts, then you can do that. But first you have to learn how to listen. You have to listen to the people. The other point is that obviously you cannot only build your teaching based on expectation of the students, because mostly students, sometimes they're not mature enough to know what they need, right? Your experience is also to be brought, not to mean that you are right and they're wrong, but once again, you have to meet them in the middle of the bridge, right? You have to listen to them, then they have to listen to you. That's the way it works. And then you have to create this relation, this trust relation between you and the students. And this, I think we really need a new method when it comes to teaching. What we are doing now, and especially with technology, when you're teaching online, for example, which is kind of complex for professors, right? I really don't like that. But anyways, that's once again, that's the request of the society today. You have to make scenarios, right? You really have to write like someone that is writing a movie every minute to make sure that you will be able to reach out to all the students, right? That they will not be bored, that will not overwhelm them with your knowledge, right? Because they're expecting, right? What they're expecting is to learn, and you have different people that are learning different ways, and then you have to adjust to that, right? So, and also because Professor Kettani was saying that lots of people are now seeing the world as kind of a game, right? They don't want to make efforts. They really want to have fun, right? So, okay, let's do that. Let's make them efforts without knowing that they're making efforts. Then you have to to present things like it's a game, it will be funny, you will like it, and then you learn throughout the process, right? Because there is something that I don't know if you've heard about the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is the less you know, the more confident you are. You know that, right? Where when you're ignorant, you're even ignorant of the fact that you're ignorant. So you're really self-confident, right? Okay. And then when you're not becoming knowledgeable in a specific field, then your self-confidence will lower because you have doubts, because you know the limits of what you know, right? And this is exactly where we have to meet students. We show that they are still ignorant learners in the field that you're teaching, right? And you have to make them aware that they're ignorant. So they have to listen to you at some point. Doesn't mean that they have to buy what you're saying. Doesn't mean that you hold any kind of truth. It means that you have a knowledge that you can bring on the table regarding, for example, understanding the market environment and what it is to be in a country, right? Because lots of students that we're teaching to, depending on the age and the level of education, they are kind of idealists, right? They see the world through, pink glasses, saying, okay, we have to save environment. Okay, great, that's cool. But real world is not only about saving environment, right? There are interests that you have to take into account. And then you can bring your experience because you are an experienced grown up, right? You're an old person. And this is where, once again, we have to make sure that the demands and the needs of the learners will meet the experience that we have. Right? Meaning also that for universities or education system, that you have to check that people that are teaching are legitimate to teach. Because I can tell you, and I don't know if Kettani would agree on that, but I've seen many professors that are not legitimate, right? Because they've never updated their knowledge, right? They're still teaching the same thing that they were teaching 10 years, 20 years ago, right? Because they're not able to question themselves, right? And then when you're a student, when you're young, you feel like, oh, you can see, you can feel the disconnection between what the professor is saying and what you experience in your world, right? And then you will not listen to the professor, right? So you're losing time, you're wasting money in the university, wasting his reputation, sorry. And this is also kind of thing that we have to make sure is that people that are teaching are legitimate and that they are teaching relevant things, things that are relevant to the needs of the learners, right? And once again, it's a relation. It's a relation. Teaching is a relation. It's not only about providing information. It's also about this is what I've learned through my teachings is that I learn a lot from my students, whoever they are. Maybe they're really totally ignorant people in my field, but sometimes they will make a comment and you feel like, wow, that's really relevant. I haven't even thought about it because I'm so focused on my own stuff. I'm so into my theories and into my ideals that sometimes I lose sight of the reality. That is the reality of the young day, right? So that's where, once again, you have to be really open-minded, and it's the whole philosophy that we have to establish. And it's both maybe a bit scary because it requires a lot of work, a lot of efforts, but it's also really thrilling to say, okay, move towards something that is more relevant to the next generation, right? And what I really like when I'm teaching is, and it's to create this bond and to see that at some point I have created this relation with my students, which is really difficult when you're teaching online, right? And then this is where, once again, we have to make scenarios, right? You say, okay, let's start with an illustration, right? So then you can anchor your teaching in the reality. And then let's try, for example, to have a practice, okay, use case, and you make just work on the use case. And then once they've done that, they've understood a little bit what the problem is about, and then you can bring some insights, theoretical insights, and then you do the same use case with the new insights to see whether it will lead to new outcomes or not. This is the process. So you make them work, you make them learn, you make them participate, you make them speak, you make them watch videos, you make them do practical things or theoretical things. This is this mix of things that you are doing minute per minute in your teaching that's the difference. If you're just here just to provide what we call the ex-cathedra teaching, you will kill the students. You will kill them, definitely. And after 5 minutes, you lose them. Right, because also in psychological, perspective, they're not able to focus as much as we were able when we were kids, right? Which is not a balance; it's a fact. So you have to teach based on 15 minutes segments, right? Because beyond those 15-minute segments, you lose them. So it's 15 minutes theoretical, and then 15 minutes practice, and then 15 minutes illustration, and then you break that, and you have some fun with them, then you recall them through something that is not related, and then you go back to the same process, etc. So it's really something that you have to build from the very beginning. And that's, once again, that's really difficult. That's really demanding, but that's really thrilling. Because at the very end of your course, when you feel like, okay, I succeeded, and students are coming to you asking questions at the end, you feel like, great, I've done the job. If so, just leaving the without even stopping, without even saying goodbye, you feel like, okay, I missed the point. Right? I lost them. So, but once again, it's and I think that we should sit around the table at some point and question the current system, and maybe provide with some new kind of perspective, some new kind of philosophy or methods to teach.
I would like to share with you something. We were celebrating Eid al-Fitr, after Ramadan, and I had family members come over to my place. And there was this young girl, she's my niece, 13 years old. And we were talking about artificial intelligence, and she said, you know what? I used ChatGPT for an assignment, and I got 15 over 20. And I'm like, God, are you sure? She said, yeah. I made it. So 13 years old. This is, I'll take it. I take it, and please, I'm sharing this with you. I take it as a challenge to us, to teachers, to professors, to researchers, and also as something that will contribute to totally transforming the school and university setting. And this is what I was sharing with you, Professor Kettani. You're in a beautiful setting. How long will that last? For how long? Soon enough, and I'm sorry, soon enough it will be a hotel, or it will be some kind of club for tennis or whatever, but not a university. Question: to what extent are we willing to keep pouring money into building beautiful universities, beautiful, let's say, schools, whereas others are already moving to something else? Japan, metaverse, Iowa, metaverse, Australia, metaverse, and so many others. To what extent are we willing to kind of keep pouring money into something that's going to be obsolete, let's say, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first university probably is the one that was established in 859 in Fez.
But that's different.
And so it's been like 1200 years ago, and I believe 1200 years on, we're still going to have universities. So the way how we teach now is different than the way we taught in 900. People were sitting in circles in a big mosque, and somebody was giving them lecture, and the way how they were given diplomas was different than now. Reference was different than now. Probably they were more authentic, but now things changed. Things changed before the internet came. Like when it comes to higher education, we integrated internet in our higher education. We then, to the extent that we have online education, we will integrate ChatGPT. The slower we are to integrate it, the less credible our certificates for our students certifying what they know and how much they know. Students will take advantage of it, and rightly so, because we as human beings, like water, we follow the easy path. And our job as higher education, as coaches, as professors, is to help our students learn and develop some pedagogy and innovate. Their innovation is their innovation based on their own training. Different people have different innovations, and that's why it's called innovation. So I don't think that universities will be killed. Their role may be different. So I don't foresee in the near future, because of this, that AUI will become a resort hotel. It could happen for other reasons. But that's the reality. People with less self-confidence, whenever a new technology comes, they say, "Oh my God, I'm gonna lose my job." No, I'm gonna integrate it to enjoy my job more. I'm gonna integrate it to become more efficient. I'm gonna integrate it for my job to mean more, to be paid more, to make more impact. And that's what AI is doing. We are like, when you talk about smart cities, it's creating more highly paid jobs and reducing the lower paid jobs, and increasing the efficiency and quality of services. The issue when it comes to higher education is integrity, and we have a generation. Again, I'm talking as if I'm old. We have a generation that missed on training on social life, so they are addicted to their social online networks, but not that, which is not much social, and there's an issue about responsibility. So there are all these so-called, as Dr. Goffi said, about soft skills. How do the person take responsibility, how to be responsible, how to have a better judgment, how to analyze problems, how to deal with it. Because I tell my students, nobody gonna ask you about your grade in this particular test, or even your grade in this course. People gonna see your character, what you train, do you respect deadlines, do you accept responsibility, how you communicate, how you communicate with others, how you communicate yourself. These are things that we care about regardless of technology. And so the future is bright with AI. And as Dr. Goffi said, those professors or those those people who resist change, then the train is moving. So either you are on it or you stand in front of it and you are hit by it. It's the train is moving. So we better integrate these technologies. We better learn them, or at least be aware of them, and how to deal with it. And students at AOI, from my knowledge, students are using ChatGPT. Even at our school, my son, who is 12 years old, he is using ChatGPT, and he's excited about it. And what do educators do about it? That's up to them. And so the questions should be like the testing methodology would be different, knowing that somebody could use ChatGPT to answer the question. At least, so a professor may not enjoy using ChatGPT, may not, but they should know that somebody could use it to answer the questions that they are given. So the questions should be asked in a way that ChatGPT may be helpful, but not doing 100% of the job.
Let me turn the floor now to Professor Goffi for his contribution to this discussion. Please go ahead.
Yes, I really love the exchange that we had, and I would be really happy if we can keep on having this really interactive discussion with Professor Kettani, instead of just providing you with my limited knowledge. I would be really happy to have him on board and just once again making this kind of discussion between all of us. But there are lots of things that because you were talking about your granddaughter, and she's 13 and this kind of thing, and she's providing a paper, an essay, and she's getting this 15 out of 20.
Yeah.
That's really an ethical question that we try to raise with our students, which is, are you happy and satisfied with the fact that you get a reward for something that you haven't done? That's the point. Are you happy with that? So most people would say, yes, I would be happy to be paid a high income without working. That's great. Okay, if someone else can do the job for me. Yes. So the next question is then, what if at some point, and you know that maybe your job will disappear, what if at some point you have to change job? What kind of knowledge do you have? What kind of thing then can you can you sell then? Because you haven't learned. Then you've got a really interesting income. You've been well paid. You had rewards, which is great, and then you can brag about it. But if you have to adjust to real life, which is that you will have to change jobs here and there, will you be able to do so? Certainly not. And then at that moment, at the very moment when you will have to move from one job to another, you will lose your competitive advantage, right? Because some other people in other places, they will have this culture of efforts, they will be able. So it's all about you. Once again, there is no easy answer to that, saying that's right or that's wrong, but people have to know what they're doing. And Professor Kettani was mentioning the fact that mostly people do not understand or do not think about the consequences of what they're doing. And that's where the point is. Okay, you have to make them think about the consequences of what they're doing. You can be really comfortable with, getting rewards from a work that you haven't done, up to you. But be aware of the consequences. Be aware of what it means, which is something really, really important, I guess. So that's kind of the ethical question that you can raise. Also, what we've told to students, and which is really funny, is that we said, okay, if we at some point identify papers or essays or exams that have been written through ChatGPT or any kind of generative system, right? Then we will mark you through the generative system, right? So we will not study your work. You will not assess it. We'll just ask ChatGPT to do it, right? So you make a bet, which is maybe, it will make statistical inferences, and maybe you will have a lower mark than if I'm doing the job. But I think that's something that might be fair, right? You provide me with an essay that has been written by ChatGPT. I provide you with marks that have been provided by ChatGPT, right? So, and then you start asking them, okay, is that really relevant? Is that really what you want? The big problem, and that's something that Professor Kettani was mentioning, and we've had the discussion with my friend Enrico Panay, who is teaching with me here at Lyon, and who is a partner in our company, which is called Digital Ethicist. He actually made exactly the same point. What he told is, okay, when you're providing an essay, you're marked, you are assessed, you get a mark, right? And then you pass or you do not pass your module, okay? And then you get or you do not get your diploma, right?
Mm-hmm.
The point with the diploma is that it's a certificate. It's a tool for trust between you and the market. The market look at your diploma, so they know that you have acquired all the knowledge that is necessary to work with them, right? So this tool that you're presenting and that you're bragging about, your PhD, your master's degree, your bachelor's degree, or whatever the diploma that you're talking about, is a tool that you're providing to others, saying, okay, look, I have the knowledge, I have the skills, right? If you succeeded using this kind of technology, then the tool that you're providing to the market is a void shell. There is nothing in it, right? And soon, as Professor Kettani was saying, and as my friend Enrico Panay is stressing when we're discussing that, is that actually first you're lying to the market, and then the market will certainly for sure discover that you're lying, because the first time that you will have to do a job, you will not be able to do it, right? The first time you will be requested to show your soft skills, you will not be able to do it, right? So that might work once, you will be fired. That might work twice, but that will not work for a long time. That's the first thing. And then if you want to progress in your career, then you will need to go over this, lazy way to do things, because you will not get high ranked jobs or good positions or well paid positions without those specific skills. You cannot only count on technology to provide you with all the solutions that you will be able to sell to others, right? And that's really a big issue that we have to make learners aware of. And that's not only about learners, because I can tell you that I know that some professors are preparing their classes through ChatGPT. I know that even journalists are writing their pieces through ChatGPT,
Yes,
right?
sure.
So it's not, and I really want to make it clear that it's not a generation problem. Right? Maybe it will be harder, or maybe it will be more important or more visible in the new oncoming generation. But it's already there in the older generation. My generation, people are already using ChatGPT for lots of purposes, right? So it's not a generation divide, right? It's I think a mentality that we have. So the big issue is that what we're doing with this kind of education, and the fact that we are reluctant to adjust to this education, is that we are providing the market in our countries with people that are not aware and that are not um, adjusting to it, right? And that's a really big issue. That's a big issue because that will have an impact on innovation, right? You are killing creativity. Back to my example about the fact that that we've used ChatGPT to establish principles for AI global governance, is that okay? You will keep repeating the same old things that the technology is providing you, right? But you will not innovate. You will not create something new. And I'm teaching in Canada online, and I've told I just finished my past term, and I will start the coming one in few weeks. And I've told my students, I've told them, okay, look, be aware that you are not prepared to the market. You are not at all, right? And be aware that this market is a global international market, and that there are some places where people do not have access to technology, where people do have a strong culture of effort, right? And then you will have to compete against them. So if you are lazy and if you only rely on technology to do the job for you, then you will get good marks, then you will get a diploma, but soon the market will see that you are not the relevant person that they want. So you will be fired, and they will hire someone that has those skills that we're talking about, those transferable skills, those soft skills that are necessary to evolve and to improve into the market, right? So that's also something that is really important. I can talk from experience, talking with people, for example, in India or in some countries in Africa that are really eager to succeed. They're not using ChatGPT. Some of them, they're really, really into doing strong effort. Go to Japan, people are working hard. Chinese people are working hard. Indian people are working hard, right? So they're developing skills that we are losing if we are not really once again training our brain to work in a way that is not always related to technology. So this is the kind of thing that we are trying to bring to the table. Obviously it's difficult. Once again, there is a question of maturity when you're teaching that to first year bachelors. They do not really have a sense of what is going on, right? This is where we're trying to also convince universities or education institutions to start teaching or informing people about the bad and good outcomes of technology from the very beginning. Once you enter university, then you have to be aware of that, and throughout all your journey through university, you have to be aware of that, and we have to repeat it all the time. Okay, ChatGPT might be a tool, but that must not be the final goal. We're talking about ChatGPT. That might be lots of other technologies that we're using, obviously, but obviously ChatGPT is kind of the current affair. But this is where we're trying also to bring some. When we're talking about ethics applied to AI, we're also talking about ethics applied to human beings' behaviors, right? What kind of person do you want to be, right? And regarding the fact that you have this age gap between teachers and learners, it's also a gap of values, right? I guess for you and I and Professor Kettani and lots of other people of our age or older than us, work is a value, right? We've been raised in the worship of work and efforts, right? That's no longer the case. And as it's been said earlier, people are just considering the world as a game. They want to enjoy it. They want to treat themselves. They want to have pleasure, right? That's not what I've been raised with. I've been raised with the fact that okay, if you want to be competitive, if you want to find your place in this society, then you will have to make effort. You will have to work a lot. You will have to learn, right? So this is also a difference of value. What is valued, what is valuable to us is not necessarily what is valuable for others, right? Or seen as valuable for others. And this is where also you have to make some compromises about your values. I know that there is a big discussion when we're talking about education and ethics and these kind of things about the responsibility that we hold as professors, right? And we talk a lot about Hans Jonas' work on the imperative of responsibility. And there is a big discussion about, is that relevant to say that we have a responsibility given that we don't know what the expectation of the coming generations are. How can we be responsible toward people that we do not know what they will be willing to do or not willing to do, right? Because when we're talking about responsibility, we're talking about responsibility from our own perspective, our own education, our own knowledge and understanding of what is important and what is not. But maybe in 2, 3, 4 generations, people will have totally different value. Let's take an example. Let's take environment. We feel like we have to make sure that we are protecting the environment because we want to provide the future generation with a nice environment. But maybe in 2, 3 generations, people will stay home. They would not even look outside the window. Maybe they will not care about the fact that there aren't any kind of trees in their cities. Maybe that's the way that we don't know, right? So when we're saying we have to make sure that those generations will have trees, will have birds, will have a pure sky and pure oxygen, maybe we are making a mistake because we are biased. Maybe it's not what they will need, right? Maybe we're going the wrong way. So this is also where we have to question ourselves, which is difficult, right? We have to question ourselves. We have to make compromises, and we also have to do what we call axiological neutrality, right? Okay, it's not about me and my value, right? I do not have to put that on the table. It's how can I adjust to this society, and how can I help and support learners to adjust to the coming society, right? And then critical thinking, once again, is really important.
I have a couple of first of all, information. Dr. Umayma Hajri from the Netherlands just joined us. Dr. Hajri is at Cambridge, and Charlie Ducour at Hog School, Rotterdam. She just joined. Hello, Dr. Hajri. Let me submit a couple of things. When we started, my colleague Aya Zadou presented the Temkine equation for improving education. And one of the variables, mean variable, is the parent. And when we're talking about, okay, let's say ChatGPT, and I gave you the example of my niece who used it. She's 13 years old, and she got 15 over 20, and she was so happy. And her mother, for that matter, was so happy because she's gonna pass. What do you tell parents? Because at the end of the day, they pay for school. They are the ones who support all the hustle, everything. If their kids do not succeed, then they would have to pay again for another year. How do we bring parents to understand that there is something, there is a risk? There are so many things, Professor Kettani. Professor Hajri, you could activate your camera if you wish. How do we do that with parents? This is a very important variable. We're talking about teachers, we're talking about students, we're talking about schools, but what about parents? I mean, I'm paying at the end of the month. I'm paying, no longer, but I used to. And I want my kid to pass. If my kid doesn't pass, then I'll be paying for another year and another year and so on and so forth. So here we are, we have this artificial intelligence who could help my kids. Why don't I just ask you teachers, you professors, provide my kid with the appropriate approach to artificial intelligence, so they would be using it properly to acquire more knowledge, more training, so many, all the areas that they are in, and succeed in their studies and therefore succeed in their lives. Tell us.
I think you're totally right that we have to bring parents into the equation. They are a big part of the education, right? That's something that is really important. I guess too often we just put the blame on universities and education system to say, okay, they haven't done the job. Yes, but us as parents, what is our responsibility, right? We have a shared responsibility to make sure that our kids will have all the tools and all the skills that will help them to adjust to the reality, and that's really interesting. But once again, it's all about rethinking the whole system. I was thinking while you were speaking about my own son, right? When we left France and we established in Canada, that was really funny because when we've been told that if our son would fail an exam, right, he can sit for it again, because we consider that maybe he was not in a good shape, maybe he was tired, or maybe he was not a good condition to sit for the exam, and maybe that's why he failed, right? Which is great. Okay, that's really nice. That's really that's really something that is valuable. But what we discovered is that you can sit one for the exam, you failed, then you failed again, then you can sit twice, and then you can sit 3 times, right? And it happened to my son at some point, right? And he said, okay, he failed, and then the professor told us, okay, he can redo the exam, no problem. And then he failed twice, and then the professor said, okay, he can retake it, and say, that's not the way it works, right? And then we had a discussion with my wife, really, and that's I think that's really interesting. My wife told me, okay, no, he will not take it again, right? He failed because it didn't work, so that's the normal reward of him not working, right? Okay, so he felt that he has to learn. And then my point was to say, okay, look, what will happen at the very end is that his friends that would retake the exam, they will be 80%. He will be 70%. When will come the time where they will have to choose to go to university or college? He will not be chosen by universities, right? Because he had this really strong ethical stance, which was the one of my wife took, which is, you cannot retake exam times and again, right? You have to work, and then you have to deserve to succeed, right? That's the way it works. It's not something that must be given. Yes, but at the very end, the point is that you are marked, right? So you take the exam 3 times. Obviously, after 3-4 times, you will succeed and you will get the exam, and maybe you will have 80%, right? So you will go to university without the knowledge and without the ethics, while my son will go to college or will fail and not go to university just because he was ethical, right? So it's a whole philosophy that we have to think about, involving, and you're totally right about that, not only students and teachers, but also.
Yeah. You're blocked.
So just to complete on what Dr. Goffi was saying, like, what defines ethics?
Professor Kettani, we don't hear you. Please.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
You hear me?
Get closer to your mic.
Okay. Well, like who defines authority? Who defines ethics? It's authority. So whether parents,
I don't know.
Well, we don't know, but typically, if parents say it's okay, then we believe it's okay. If the professor said it's okay to take the test again, then it's okay. So, of course, we can debate it more and get deeper into it. What is ethics? And I'm sorry that I see Dr. Goffi dropped because of internet issues, but the question was, like, what do we do if parent think it's right, but the institution thinks it's not right? We face that all the time. We face it, for example, here with dress code, for example. So the university may think that some dress is inappropriate, and then parent may come and talk to the dean of student affairs and tell them, no, I bought them that clothes and I'm okay with them wearing it. So how do you deal with that? Well, then you have to do some PR, you have to do some discussions. The same thing, again, any new technology, people will resist it until it becomes a fact of life that we must use it. And so ChatGPT or its variant, it's just another technology.
Let me now turn the floor to Professor Umayma Hajri. She just joined. I'm very pleased to welcome her with us, and let's hear what she says, what she has to say about that. Please.
Yes. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So thank you very much for the invitation. Very pleased to be here. Thank you, Dr. Adbeliilah. My name is Umayma Hajri, as already introduced, and I currently work as a researcher and lecturer in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam at the university. And I'm also doing research here at the University of Cambridge, where I'm currently now for a conference. So I'm trying to squeeze in some time to be here, but really excited to be here. To be honest, I cannot necessarily reason from a parent's perspective because I'm not a parent myself. But what I can reason from is maybe from a education perspective, because myself, I'm a lecturer, and together with a colleague, we have developed a whole curriculum about responsible technology for engineering students and for data science and AI students, because we really believe and we really think that it's very important to equip these students with the critical knowledge and with the potential social impact of these technologies from day one, because these future engineers and these future data scientists and AI scientists have a major impact on our societies and have a major impact in transforming our societies, both for the good or the bad. So that is something that I truly believe in, that from day one, future data scientists and engineers have to critically think about these technologies. And maybe to just tell a little bit more about my own background. Myself, I'm a political scientist specializing in international relations. And from there, I became really interested in the intersection of technologies, human rights, ethics. And that is why I wanted to learn more about the technological side of things. I pursued a master's in data science. And why am I saying this is because I really think that it's important to allow ourselves, especially in a society wherein we only think that STEM studies and that studies that are related to maths, to physics, to technology are of great significance, that it's also very important to take into account studies more in the field of social sciences or studies more in the field of the humanities, because they can give very important insights, because in the end, the technologies that we are using on a daily basis are part of our societies, and we continue to shape them every day. So because of that mix of both data science and the political science background that I had, I allowed myself to indulge of this intersection of AI, technology, and ethics. And I really think that we always think that it's a black or white thing. So you either are a technologist or you are someone within the humanities or within the social sciences. But I really think that having a mix of both worlds allows you to reason more about things and to critically examine these technologies. Because in the end, yes, they are part of our societies. And as Dr. Kettani just mentioned, we're always afraid of new technologies. Just look at the car. A car was also a technology, and it normally, like the way where the car is operating now, it used to be public space. But when the car was introduced, that public space had to make space for the car, and that was also a very radical change for societies. So in the end, yes, we're always afraid of new technologies, but I do think that on the one hand, that being afraid can be legitimized because they are transforming our societies. But at the other hand, that we can also investigate how we can use these technologies for the good and to amplify the positive impacts in our societies. So that is, I think, my main takeaway that I would like to give to students. Give yourself the freedom to explore, to navigate between different disciplines, and to try and find these intersections instead of staying in one discipline and trying to reason from that discipline. Because in the end, also, if we look at our societies, all these disciplines are interwoven with each other, and it's very important to have that interdisciplinary approach and way of thinking in order to be able to analyze problems in a inclusive and in a diverse manner that can benefit our societies.
Well, this is very. Let me just, as I listen to you and the discussions we had already, and where you are now, how do people deal with all this flood? We opened the gate and we're being flooded with so much. How do ordinary people deal with that, and how do students deal with that, and how does academia as well deal with that, and what are, let's say, the precaution, if I may say precaution, because I don't see any, honestly, I don't see any need for any precaution. I mean, the dynamic will ultimately adjust to itself. I am from, let's say, an Anglo-Saxon environment. So I think that the market at some point, market in its broad meaning, will adjust itself somehow. A friend of mine was saying yesterday, was writing yesterday, for all these hundreds and hundreds of artificial intelligence coming our way or being shot to us, some would stay and some would just disappear, because there is a kind of frenzy ongoing, and that frenzy will ultimately slow down. What do you think? How do you deal with that in the environment you are? I know that you're in the Netherlands. How does it work?
Yeah. So I do agree that indeed some technologies will survive and other will maybe die or not be significant anymore. But I do think that we shouldn't just let these dynamics resolve themselves, especially if we look at the negative impact that technologies can have. So reasoning from my positionality in the Netherlands, we've had several cases actually with artificial intelligence systems that had severe negative impacts on marginalized communities in the Netherlands. And an example was an AI system that was being used to detect whether certain parents are fraudulent or not. And this system, when you utilize these kind of systems for these complex issues, obviously they do not understand any context. They do not understand the positionality of these parents. And what happened was that a lot of parents were wrongly accused as being fraudulent, and resulting in major debts, resulting in children having to go out of their houses, resulting in divorces and even people committing suicide. And just because of a technical mistake of the AI system, because it classified certain people as fraudulent because they were from marginalized communities, because they had a second nationality, because they had a certain type of religion. So I do think that, because we have this tendency to think of technologies as only efficient, as we think of these technologies in terms of efficacy, etc. But we do not spend much time focusing on the negative impact of these technologies. And I really think that if we do this simultaneously, and this is also what is currently happening within academia, and obviously if we look at the technological changes, every day there are new tools. Like, it's super hard to catch all these new changes and to stay on track. But at the same time, I really think that especially what we see now within the academical sphere is that you try your best to investigate and to interrogate the negative impact, to be able to use this knowledge in a way to develop and to implement AI or technologies in general that are for good. For example, this platform of Temkine, as Dr. Adbeliilah, as you told me that you've built your own environment for this foundation, which is an amazing example. And there are also a lot of other technologies that are used for good. But I really think that we shouldn't just leave these dynamics to be resolved themselves, especially because we see that AI has a quite transformative power and is continuing to impact the marginalized communities. And maybe we do not feel this impact in the global south, or maybe in countries as Morocco, but maybe in a context as the Netherlands, where marginalized communities are facing racism, discrimination on a daily basis. It's very important to shed the light on these issues. So I really think that the race to AI, so the technical knowledge and the ethical and the societal knowledge, should be a parallel process and should be investigated both at the same time. And I really do think that especially engineering students and data science students and AI students, that they will even become better practitioners if they do take into account these ethical considerations, because in the end, there is no one that would like to implement technologies that can harm societies in such a negative way. So you will only foster these practitioners to be better and eloquent practitioners, and to always take into account the environmental impact, the social impact, the cultural impact. So that would be my take. I would say, yes, technologies do disappear and other are here to stay, but at the same time, considering the severe impacts and considering the transformative power of AI, I really think that there is a lot still to be done in terms of investigating the negative impacts, to be able to harness these technologies for good, because I do inherently believe that we can use these technologies for good. And we have a lot of examples also in the African continent.
You know, before you joined, I was sharing with the colleagues, Dr. Kettani, Dr. Goffi, I'm sorry. This one of the components of our equation, our Temkine equation for improving education, and I'll share it with you later on. I'll send it to you. Parents is for us very, very a key variable. And it seems that when academia thinks about the matter, they forget that parents are key. They forget that they are, at the end of the day, at the end of the year, they are the ones who bear whatever cost, social, physical, money, and all that stuff. So how do people in where you are within the school, and we are in a couple of projects enhancing the role of parents. We've been calling on parents to come back to school, meaning that they have to get more involved in the school dynamics, school, preschool, university, etc. If the products, quote unquote, if their kids are to learn and are to be what they expect them to be. So how do parents? I see that Mr. Rashid is with us, so he's very interested, and that's very important. I don't see anybody from here connected with us, whereas he is connected. So how do parents, let's say, deal with the issue? How are they or are they not involved?
Yes, that's a very legitimate observation. I do have to admit that within the academic sphere that I'm involved in, that I do not do any research with parents or involve them, which is a very good point, and that will definitely take with me as feedback and share with my colleagues, because indeed I do think that we tend to focus on a lot of stakeholders when we analyze the impact of technologies or the impact on students who are using these technologies or youngsters who are using these technologies, but that perhaps we are forgetting a very important stakeholders, who are obviously the parents, and who are obviously in the end dictating what is good or bad for the youngsters. So I would say that I'll definitely take that with me as a point and share that with my colleagues. And maybe just to reason from my own personal experience, I do think that engagement of parents is very important, and that it can really shape you as a youngster. It can really shape you in understanding what is inherently good or wrong for you, not because your parents should serve as a dictator telling you that this is the right way to do things and this is the wrong way to do things, but just as a facilitator during your process, in which there comes a time wherein they have to give you the freedom and to give you the trust to walk your own journey. But I do think that indeed it is very important, and it is of great significance to include parents within the whole cycle, within the whole development of youngsters, whether it is in how they are using technologies, because we are seeing that the impact is quite severe on these youngsters that are using technologies, that are living in an era wherein TikTok, wherein Instagram, wherein YouTube, wherein all these algorithmic filter bubbles are causing harm on their mental health, are causing harm on their academic on their academic journey, etc. So I do think that it is a legitimate observation, and that maybe also within academia we should focus more on this important stakeholder. Yeah, thank you.
You know, Dr. Hajri, now we were discussing when my colleagues were having the floor, Professor Kettani, Professor Goffi, and we are discussing about universities today, the way they are, with this I think really clear in our mind that Japan has had their metaverse. Their commencement in a metaverse. Iowa has had that. Australia, Singapore, and other countries. Where are we going? Where are we heading to? Universities will no longer be the way they are today. Our kids will be joining, let's say, what universities would create. Would that have an impact on the setting we have today? Would that help, let's say, make this economy save money, a lot of money? We're actually injecting in buildings, and then people would work from home. Is that something that universities, the schools where you are considering that they would save money on utilities, on transportation, on so many things? And we, on the other hand, will be able to attending to several things at the same time, such as what you did today and what other colleagues did today. They attended this one, they're attending another one, etc. Whereas when you are in a physical setting, you would not and cannot do that. Is that something that's ongoing in your environment?
Yeah, I think that is a very legitimate observation again. And I think that COVID has shown us that indeed there can be a lot of freedom in being present hybridly or virtually. I do think that when we look at Eastern countries in the eastern part of the world, that they are far more advanced in terms of how to navigate this fear, how to make sure that there are still a lot of pedagogical elements within these technologies that are using, for example, within the metaverse or within other virtual environments. And I do think that the West, and especially reasoning from my own positionality, which is the Netherlands, that we have still not figured out how to find the right balance, especially after COVID. What happened in the Netherlands is that a lot of students actually weren't succeeding in their studies because of this distance, because of the lack of attention, because of the fact that they can tune in whenever they want and watch a lecture whenever they want. At the same time, it really showed that students can maybe try and put more effort into time management by not necessarily going to school every day and using that time of commuting to do something else, to do some extracurricular activities. So I would say I'm not sure whether I would be 100% in favor of a 100% virtual environment of education, unless we've figured out together how we could maintain these important elements that we have within physical ways of education and within physical interactions between the students and the teachers, and to also be sure that the quality of education is maintained. If I look at my own context, something that I'm really struggling with is ChatGPT with my own students, because now they are submitting essays to me that are incredibly written, and when compared to other essays that they have previously submitted, you can really clearly see that something is happening there, but I cannot prove it myself. I can only prove if there is something with plagiarism whatsoever, but I'm 9 out of 10 times I'm 100% sure that it is not their work, but I cannot prove it, and that is something that is really worrying me. So the quality of education. And maybe that is also a sign for us, as you said, because indeed we have to transform with our technologies because they are inherently part of our societies, to maybe think of new forms of education. So why are we still letting students write essays? Maybe there are other forms, maybe there are other online forms of assessing these students and being to be sure whether they have comprehended the knowledge that you've shared. So I really think that before fully transforming into virtual environments as the metaverse in terms of education, that we really have to consider the potential negative impacts. And again, the Eastern countries are really good with their philosophies, because in the end they have more, I would say, robust ethical frameworks, more robust philosophical frameworks. They really believe in this relational sphere, this relational way of thinking in which one wouldn't do any harm to others, because the social good and the social well-being is important when compared to the Western ethical frameworks in which there is a lot of individualism and it's just me. So that is why I would say that I wouldn't even be surprised that this model of virtual education is succeeding in the eastern part of the world, and also because they have a lot of discipline. They have a very, I would say, healthy way of pedagogical principles within their educational system, and we can see that on an international level, whether in academia or in other disciplines. They are literally pioneering everywhere. So I would say that we can definitely learn from their systems. But again, I would really want to stress on the importance of reflecting and ethically and critically reflecting on the negative impacts. Yes.
So 2 words, and we are in between. Where do we stand? My country, Morocco, your country, where do we stand? Professor Feghi, who just joined us from Toronto, Canada. Where do we stand? What do we do? What do we tell? What am I going to tell my grandkids? I got 4 grandkids. What am I going to tell them? Professor Feghi, what do you think?
Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation. Okay, I would say that now we are from the generation that we have seen a lot of changes in education systems. Okay, one thing I would like to mention, I came from an education system which apply traditional, my generation was applying traditional education, going to a classroom, reading books, doing assignment. There was no media, there is no at least there is no communication as we have it now. So the way we were educated, it was reflected in in this. Okay, we still could not accept the new methods of education. This is, I'm talking from my experience. So most of the time it will take some time to get adjusted to the media and education, metaverse, and now I see the adoption is coming very fast. It's not as expected. We're expecting it to take longer time for the generation to accept it, but I see it's truly and accepted in a very fast way. People, maybe this is due to the situation of COVID, and which we were enforced to adopt this new method of education. So I would say it's different from new techniques few decades ago. We were it was difficult to adapt to a new technology of using computer and even typing the assignment and submitting the assignment on the network. It was took some time, but this time it's happening very fast. Maybe the COVID helped in this. Okay, this is what I would say it's happening very, very fast.
Well, thank you, Professor Feghi. I'm going to turn the floor to you for your contribution. Go ahead, please. On the topic.
Okay, the topic of the conference, right? Okay, you are muted. Yeah, I'm saying is it?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yes, in this conference, I will be talking about the use of medical or the metaverse in medical education.
No, what I would like, yeah, go ahead. That's
the topic, right? Yeah.
But the one we're dealing with today is how artificial intelligence could contribute to professional, let's say, projects for learners. And we are dealing with that since this morning with all the participants. So yes, go ahead, metaverse. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, no, I was like thinking about like even use of artificial intelligence in medical and education and medical application.
Okay.
So yeah, okay. I will be like I have some vast experience in two aspects of medical, like applying artificial intelligence in medicine. The first one was in digital pathology, like where we use some, like we cooperate with the pathologist, where like we take the biopsy, like they take the biopsy, we do the we take a microscopic image after staining, then we see like the cells, okay, and we can evaluate or like predict the cancer in the cells. Okay, we compared the use of like classifiers to predict like the like how bad the cancer is in the cells. Okay, we compared our system or our results with several pathologists, and they were like the artificial intelligence, like as if it was competing with other pathologists, and it was possible like for the artificial intelligence to beat the human pathology education, and like results of artificial intelligence was much better than it was more like subjective results from the pathologist. So it was able to beat the evaluation of pathologists. The other one is the application of evaluation of oocyte, like when they take the egg and before they inject it or before they freeze, because now people are freezing eggs, and like sometimes women don't want to get pregnant now, they want to take the egg, freeze it, and like do IVF later, a few years after that. Okay. Before they do that, they want to make sure that the egg is will become plasticide. Okay, so for us, like for embryologists, they cannot predict this unless they inject it. So before they freeze it, they want to evaluate. So with artificial intelligence, now we can predict the quality of egg. Now these are the two applications that could be used in education and also in medical applications. You are muted.
Okay, thank you. One of the questions we've discussed, Professor Fegi, is about how should academia adjust to the ongoing flood of so many artificial intelligences? How could we provide the best training, quote unquote, to future laureates so they would be able to build themselves and achieve themselves? And how could we do that? And I mean, and what are the precautions, if any, we should be taking so not to giving into too much technology or giving into too much forbiddenness, if I may say it this way?
I would say like in like recently, like the opening of the metaverse, and it's opening and connecting people together, like students, professionals, and it's unstoppable. Like we cannot stop it. Okay, but there are two things we always like differentiate between industrial research and academic research. For academia, like unless like for industry, like you have to have an application that could be adopted or could be accepted and could be approved. In academia, maybe the research is like to do a proof of concept and publish papers. So together, both like the academia and the industry, like they are searching for better environment for doing their research. So like the research is a bit different, but it's very hard, or it's moving. Now there are so many applications that can be used in medicine and education, and like the learning will be way beyond belief. Like even in anatomy, for example, like it's much easier now to visualize and use 3D imaging, and can emulate these operation rooms, and this will be a lot of saving for saving money, time, and also doing experiment that cannot be done on human. So there are so many advantages in this, I would say.
Okay. Well, I think we've come to an understanding that, and if I may sum up, that yes, technology is here to help. Technology is not a panacea. We should not be so stringent on forbidding it, but we should train our new generations on using it. It has to be used within some ethical, let's say, boundaries, and those ethical boundaries has to be set with everybody's contribution. Universities and schools are changing. There is a dynamic that's ongoing, and I did repeat something that you said yesterday, Professor Figi, that the best artificial intelligence are here to stay. Others that came up just like that will disappear. It's like that. It will happen. Now the change is happening so fast. We have to adjust. We have to adapt, but we have to get on it. Instead of waiting for it to happen, we have to be part of it. What do you think?
Yes, as I was said, there are now over 1,000 applications in the last month using artificial intelligence. They are coming, so many of them. Okay, only applications that can survive will stay. Others will die. As I was saying, like survival for the fittest. Okay, most applications they will die on they are coming. There are so many applications coming, but most of them, or many of them at least, will die, and some of them will stay. So the best will survive. That's what I would expect.
Well, this is. I think we came to the end of our session on this first day of the 4th edition of the Temkine Virtual Open Doors. I would like to thank everybody for their contribution and wish everybody well. We will be now opening all the rooms, actually 135 rooms for universities and schools to interact with students from all over the country, Africa, and from other countries around the world. We will sum up later on during the week, and we will provide a report on how this worked. I would like to call everybody's attention to the upcoming conference on education in the metaverse, and we will be advertising that with hoping that a lot of people would participate. This conference will be the 3rd one. Temkine Foundation and partners are organizing within the dynamic and in preparation of Dakhla International Education Forum. Thanks to Professor Saidi, thanks to Professor Kettani, Goffi, Hana Hashimi, Professor Umayma Hajri, Professor Idris El-Fegi, Aya Zadou, Mr. Ismail Kharraz. Thanks to everybody. This concludes our conference. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.